home field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Nilesh Goswami in just a moment. I asked him a few things about the news, and let's discuss that. Today, Coach McDermott, Sean McDermott of Buffalo, they were having a team meeting. He said they had a treat for them, and I don't know if any of the players really thought anything about it. They've heard the news that again, Damar Hamlin had started to speak, and that he had taken the tube out, all that update. And then they had a team meeting, and they flashed him FaceTime. It was Damar Hamlin on the screen in front of his teammates.
Yeah, that had to be just unbelievable to see. And 3 days, they took the breathing tube out. He's talking, he's communicating, he's doing better. So just thank God for the great care that he got there on the field and at the hospital at University of Cincinnati. So they really have done well. And I think, the collective sigh of relief that you just keep hearing from the football world of like, oh my, thank God this didn't go the other way, because just so many emotions and thoughts went through all of our heads on Monday night. So great that he's here on Friday and talking to the team.
Yeah, I mean, cool moment. Obviously, very glad that he's doing okay. That's what's most important. I'm sure the NFL, I bet they are thankful because I think football's got to be careful, man. The more those incidents pop up, the more people are going to be like, how safe is this? And how much do we want our kids playing it? And, it's always going to be a high in-demand sport, and it's always going to probably be the most popular sport in America. But, as much as there has been talk about, how many people youth-wise are playing the game or how many are now playing flag football and things like that, like that's an incident that leads to more parents going like, you're not playing tackle football until you're in high school or at all ever. So, I think that the fact that he's doing well is good, but I do think that that's going to probably bring home some fears for people about just how violent the sport is, and that's nothing new, but that's just the most violent we've seen it in probably quite some time. And so I do think there will be some fallout from that, but that's a separate matter, and I'm just glad that Damar Hamlin's seemingly okay. I'm glad that he could put a smile and put some relief in the bellies and the hearts of a lot of his friends and family by making the progress that he has, and hopefully just keeps it up and keeps getting healthier and better and putting more smiles on faces and smiling himself, because that was really scary. And we could be talking about something a lot more dire, but thankfully we're talking about something pretty positive.
And his father had said, hey, he wants the team to move focus on what the goals were when they opened the season or even the off season. So they do play this weekend. And just amazing credit to first responders, the team, the doctors of both the Bills and the Bengals, the stadium personnel, the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. Just incredible, because just like another extra 10 seconds or an extra minute, or who knows if maybe just something didn't go well. And I still think it's really, really, and I say this in a way, funny and very cute in a way, that the first thing he asked was, did we win the game? And when he was able to at least have any kind of communication, I guess he wrote that down.
You know what? I thought about that, though. That's the last thing he remembers was playing in the game. So the first thought he's going to have, because he didn't know it was Thursday, all he knew is he was awake. I mean, it could have been an hour later for all he knew, because he'd been unconscious for all that time. So the first thing he wakes up and sees that he's not at the field, he's like, did we win? So, that was the best news, just because, again, it showed cognitive function. And
we're going to hear from Dr. Nilesh Goswami, who was on with us Tuesday to kind of explain all of what was going on that day, that night at the stadium in Cincinnati. And, in fact, after the news came down, he texted me earlier today about how he was blown away, thrilled for the news of what Damar Hamlin and the news about him communicating, talking, the tube being taken out, the breathing tube, and I had a chance to visit with him earlier this afternoon. We're with Nilesh Goswami, cardiologist, doctor at Baylor Scott White-Hillcrest, and he was with us on Tuesday on the Damar Hamlin story. And are you amazed at the quick turnaround with the great news, doctor, from this morning?
I am. It's great news to hear. It sounds like he made a big turn and a step in the right direction in a short period of time, in 48 hours. So that's all good.
When you look at the process or the timeline, and you kind of gave us a little bit of what they would need to do, the body temperature and just sedation and the tube and all that. When you were following this story throughout the week, was it pretty much going according to what any doctor would want?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I think it seems like the first 24 to 36 hours was relatively quiet in terms of updates. And so it's hard to tell and gather information, and because all this information is private. And so I'm just glad he's better. It's hard to tell exactly what trajectory and path he took to get to recovery, but I think that the most important thing is that he's there.
So now what? The news that he was on FaceTiming the team, they had a big team meeting. They have these huge meeting rooms, and they surprised him. Coach McDermott said they had kind of a treat today, and of course the players loved it. What's next?
Yeah, that's a good question. It kind of depends on what happens, right? I mean, I think everything we discussed earlier in the week was all hypothesis. And we didn't have any confirmation at this point as to what exactly precipitated this. Was it commotio cordis, that's the blunt trauma to the chest that provoked a sudden cardiac arrest, or was it something else? Those could have been, again, just to touch on some of the other factors, some of the genetic factors, some of the pre-existing conditions, or a tear in the artery, what have you. We don't exactly know what the precipitant was, and it hasn't been confirmed yet, at least not released to us. So that's what will determine the next steps.
Again, we're talking to Nilesh Goswami, Dr. Goswami from Baylor Scott White-Hillcrest, cardiologist and interventional as well, interventional cardiologist. When you saw what was happening throughout the week, was there anything in particular that gave you more hope than anything else? Or the fact that there was, you said it was quiet, but was there anything in particular when you did see it, read it, or heard about it that you went, okay, he's not out of it, but this is great news?
Yeah, I think, the biggest concern, at least in my mind, was his neurologic status. So I think once we started getting inklings of, hey, he's moving his arms and he's gesturing with his eyes and he's neurologically intact. They use that word a lot, right? So once we started getting releases of information that were consistent with that, I felt a lot better that at his age, in his physical condition, he's going to make a full recovery.
So,
or at least let me backtrack and say, or at least the chances are good.
Yes, yeah, because again, it's the human body. We never know. But so he's talking. He's FaceTiming. He asked about whether the team won the game. Of course, that's been a day or two. He's communicating. He was writing. He seems to be alert. He's breathing on his own. Is this not a miracle? Amazing what the medical people did at the stadium, the Bills and the Bengals and all the stadium personnel as well. But could this have been any better up until what now is what we know?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it sounds like he got the care he needed very quickly. And, that's been a discussion just with some colleagues of mine over the last 24 hours is, you can imagine trying to do CPR or to deliver a defibrillator shock in a patient with chest pads on and a full uniform, right, with all the other pads that are on. And to deliver effective CPR and to deliver the shock, you're going to have to remove chest pads or at least expose the area of the chest where the heart is, the left side of the chest, just to the left of the breastbone. And, anybody that's played football before knows how hard it is to get chest pads off when you're awake and standing up.
Yes.
Think about how difficult it is with a guy that's unresponsive laying down. And so these are just some of the challenges I think we just kind of think through in the medical profession as, what would delay time and add time to resuscitating this guy. But despite all that, kudos to the Bill staff and the people and doctors at the University of Cincinnati that have given this guy effective, quick treatment to the point where he's awake, talking, and flexing on TV in front of his teammates.
He's been our go-to guy throughout the week. Again, Nilesh Goswami, Dr. Nilesh Goswami from Baylor Scott White-Hillcrest in Interventional Cardiology. Thank you for what you helped us understand a heck of a lot better on Tuesday, and also your thoughts about the update. Please have a great weekend, Doctor, and thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
A new truck